We're going to be authenticating this Rolex Hulk today. I actually got it for a new customer who didn't care about having box or papers. He just wanted to get the best deal possible. And after seeing a lot of our authentication videos, he felt comfortable buying it from us so long as we checked it out for him. So we're gonna be checking it out. First thing we're gonna do is just look at the overall condition of the watch. And I'll give you a couple of things that I noticed right off the bat for it. First thing I see is that the serial number on this watch starts with a G, and a G serial is approximately 2010. So at this point, the watch is 15 years old. And when I look at the condition of it, it's not like this mint and crisp, unpolished example. It looks like it's been polished once or twice, but it's definitely not over polished by any means. Bracelet is still nice and tight. The corners of the lugs are slightly rounded, but I'd still give them like an 8 out of 10. And then I do notice the pearl, which is on the bezel, has this like slight little ding on it, which it can happen. The watch is 15 years old. But the main things that we want are for the dial to be clean, the bezel to be clean, and there to be no major issues with the watch. So let's continue on with inspecting it, and we're gonna disassemble the watch as well. Also, one thing to know about a G serial and this watch being 2010, one thing a lot of people don't know is on the sports model buckles in the early 2010s, when you open up the buckle, there's like this sand-blasted finish on the inside of here, but on the newer models, here, hand me that Starbucks right there. But in the mid-2010s, they switched from that buckle style to this buckle style, which is shiny on the inside. And this is good to see, just the whole watch kind of aligns with its year. All right, and next thing I'm looking for to make sure that the hands and the dial are scratch-free, that there's no dust under here, and no signs of someone tampering with the watch. While we're in here, we can see the crown on the sapphire crystal, which indicates it being a genuine crystal. All right, now we're gonna take the bracelet off the watch. All right, so this tool just grabs the spring bars in here. They pop right off. I'll do the other side. Take these spring bars out. Okay, so we're gonna look at the bracelet first. I want you guys to see what I'm looking at when I'm looking under the loupe. So this is a pretty inexpensive digital microscope, and you can see that on the end of the bracelet that attaches to the watch, so you can't see this obviously when the watch is attached, you have this reference number 97200. All right, and the fake bracelets will have this on there as well, but after seeing enough of them, you can just compare the writing styles. We're actually building a database of all of these images so that we can have a big backlog of real versus fake pictures to ever draw back to if we're not 100% sure. And then if you see on the sides, we have this crown etched into the bracelet as well. All right, and let's check out the other side. All right, so same numbers over here, 97200. If you see all this black stuff in the picture, that's actually just some dirt that has accumulated. It seems like this watch hasn't been wiped down in a little bit. This is a legit bracelet. Next thing we're gonna do is take one of these links out. On the inside holes of the links, you have what we call a chamfer edge. On fake links, you'll see that they just drilled a hole, but on the real ones, they take the time to put this fine finishing detail on the watch so that the screw slides in easier. Yeah, it's just an extra step that the fake watches generally won't take because it adds to their manufacturing cost. We have our model number on the 12 o'clock side between the lugs. It reads 116610, which is the correct reference number for this watch. All right, and again, we're looking for a certain style of font to be written here. And also we're looking for these vertical finishing lines that go across the whole watch, and then they even extend on the sides of the lugs. And then while we're in here, we're also gonna look at the bezel. Each of these cutouts on the bezel are gonna also have vertical finishing lines, and then around the rim of the bezel is gonna be these horizontal finishing lines. We're opening up the case back, and let's take a look at the movement. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is stop the movement so that the balance wheel stops. And All right, so on the real balance wheels, you'll notice it has a blue hairspring, all right, and it has these screws attached around the rim of it. On each of these spokes, we'll call them, it has these little pin dots on them with a certain finishing texture to them. These obviously aren't technical terms, but for someone that is just trying to look if it's real or not, you have to find some key identifiers just to compare it to. This is the caliber number 3135. So the best thing you want to do is just get right on Google Images, type in Rolex caliber 3135, find a picture of an authentic one, and then look at every square millimeter of that compared to what you have in your hands. At this point, I already know that the movement is real, so what I'm looking for is just to make sure that it's in good condition. The best way to do that is first you look at each of the screws, all right, because when the screws of this watch are first installed, they're brand new screws and they don't have a single mark on them, but once someone goes into the watch and turns them, it leaves a trace of them turning the screws, and then you can tell if the watch has been worked on. All right, and I do see that the two screws that hold the movement down have been turned before, but being that this watch is 15 years old, it was most likely serviced because the movement is actually very clean. Everything else is super clean in here. It's just the two clamp screws is what they're called. Have been turned before, probably just to access the dial side and to service the movement. And we also want to look at the case back. All right, again, there's 4 numbers over there. 2360 is something you can look up online, Rolex 2360 case back. You can look at images and you can compare real versus. You can see the font that this was written in. And again, these are things that we're building databases over here. Hundreds and hundreds of real images so that if we ever get something in the store and it looks even a hair different than what our database records are, we can do some more digging into it. So hopefully after a couple more years of building all of these images, we're gonna have possibly one of the best databases for real versus fake pictures of Rolexes. Is it? Special standard. All right, so amplitude is reading 291, which is very strong and acceptable. Looks to be ranging between 5 and seconds day fast per day, which is also a very acceptable range. All right, so we got the watch closed back up. We're gonna put it on our pressure tester and make sure the watch hasn't compromised its water resistance. Pop this thing up to 3 bars. I'll show you guys how this works. All right, so we turn this so that it is on 0. This is a bit of an old school machine. We are gonna be upgrading to a newer machine soon, but this definitely still gets the job done. All right, so let me start this. And then we wanna watch. The 0 will slide up just about 2 to 3 notches, right? It's not about how much it goes up, it's about holding that position once it gets there. That's good. All right, so when we turn this off, we want to make sure that it doesn't start to work its way down. Wait about 30 seconds. All right, I'm gonna press this red button down here. And then you want to watch the gauge as I press the red button. So it should slide back down. Okay, so it held where it was, and then when we release the pressure, it slides back down. So this watch is waterproof. Let's head back to my office. All right, so the watch checked out. We're just gonna put it back together, show you guys how to snap this bracelet back on. All right, so normally what you see people do, and it looks like someone had done it on this watch already, is they basically take the watch and they push down on it and click these spring bars at the same time, which causes micro scratches on the back of the watch. Super common, you see it on just about every single Rolex nowadays. But the proper way to do this is you take a tool like this, right? You squeeze the spring bars prior to pressing it to the watch, and then you can just insert it in. without scratching anything. That wraps up the authentication of this watch. I'm gonna go share all the details that I've learned about it with my customer, make sure that he's okay with it. I think for what he's looking for, which was a Rolex Hulk, no box, no papers, in good condition, I do think this fits the bill, and hopefully he agrees with that, then I'll be able to ship it off to him. So if you have any questions or want to see any different watches authenticated in the future, drop a comment below.